What's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 96 of the Super Deformed Gamescast, back after a nice Thanksgiving break. I'm very full. I probably gained about 10 pounds, but it's all good. Thanksgiving is one of my favorite holidays, and even though I miss podcasting with my boys and I miss talking to everybody in chat, it was a vacation well worth it. But as always, after a week off, there's a lot to talk about. This is Zach's first episode as an actual permanent member of the podcast. So Zach.
Yeah, it's good to be a permanent member now. I'm stoked to be here.
Welcome. You will change your opinion eventually.
Oh, great! Thanks.
You will regret this. People are already floating in the chat. What's going on, guys? Guys in chat, do me a favor. Get on Twitter, retweet this out. Help us get people in here. We would really appreciate that.
We are 4 episodes away from the big 100.
100. Man, I can't believe 100 episodes, guys. I can't believe that we've been doing this for over 2 years now.
It's been 2.5 years.
Yeah, wow, man.
That's crazy.
A lot has happened. We've gotten press credentials. We've been to PAX East. We've had interesting folks on our show like Mike Huber and Susan Arndt and Mike Laidlaw and Jason Schreier and all kinds of cool people. We had the father of Xbox.
Father of Xbox.
Yeah, that was cool. Zach, I'm sorry you missed that one, man. That was
No. Yeah.
That was nuts.
That was
And then I joined, and now it's all gonna go downhill.
Yep.
It's all
never get a cool
It was an all-in-one experience.
Mm-hmm.
But now with Zach here, we truly are now the all-in-one entertainment podcast. So I am thankful for that. So we have. Hold on, am I cutting off, guys? Is my voice cutting out at all?
I think you're okay.
Okay, cool. Just wanted to make sure. Okay,
you're fine for me.
All right, yeah. Diogo in chat said it was cutting off a bit, but it seems fine now. Okay, awesome. All right, so we got a lot to talk about. There's a lot to cover, and I'm going to leave it to you guys. Where do you want to start? We've got the loot boxes and the government regulation. We've got the let's just say the character issue in Xenoblade Chronicles 2, and we've also got what was the third topic we had going? It was changing content in single player games like Final Fantasy 15 has over the past I guess almost exactly a year. Do you guys want to start with loot boxes? Do you think that's? You guys want to start there?
Sure. Yeah, that's like the topic du jour, pretty much.
Okay, let's do it. So, as everybody knows, Battlefront 2 has seen a lot of controversy since release date. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's underperforming at the register as well.
Compared to the first one, definitely. Yeah.
Compared to the first one, yeah. And a lot of that is being blamed on EA's just absolutely awful microtransaction system, which was we just lost Jay, he'll be back. Which I just noticed Finn isn't here either.
Yeah.
Finn, get the fuck in here. And I know that they took a lot of that stuff out, but bad news and bad press tends to stick around. And as a result,
this game is tainted now.
It really is, and I don't know if it can overcome it at this point.
It can, because like I said last week, the movie is coming out in 2 weeks.
The movie is coming out, but I obviously, yeah, that'll give it a boost, but I don't expect the game to have significant legs past January, February. To be totally
honest, people who have been playing it, correct me if I'm wrong, people who have been playing it, but from what I've seen, they've kind of gotten bored with it, and in these past, however many weeks it's been out, 3 weeks, it just has no legs in general.
And the general opinion of the campaign is that it's completely worthless.
Zach, right. you've actually you played it, right?
I'm still playing it a little bit. So there's a couple things to unpack there. One, campaign, you are correct. Campaign is a red box or nothing. If that's your main draw. I think I said that a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
But I think I'm not bored with the multiplayer, but the multiplayer is plagued with issues, right? There's this progression, which is fundamentally broken. The most broken aspect of the game. But the game is also suffering from severe rubber banding on all platforms.
I saw that, yeah.
Which is, that hits every game, but to see it as bad as it is 2 weeks in is kind of surprising. But I don't know. I think a lot of people want to talk about the loot boxes now, but after that movie comes out, families will be hyped up and they'll be buying this game for their kids at Christmas. But I also say that as somebody who's hopeful for this game, but it's been 2 weeks since they said they'd look at loot boxes and they haven't said anything. So What's that mean?
So let's dive into the loot box thing, right? So I can't remember what, I think it was, I can't remember what country it was offhand, but a year, what was it, Belgium?
I thought so.
I think it might have been Belgium that said that loot boxes are considered a form of gambling. And
yeah, that was Belgium.
It was Belgium, and there's also some legislation being examined by I think a congressman in Hawaii.
Yep.
Looking at the quote unquote predatory nature of loot boxes and whether or not they constitute gambling. Now I know that Belgium already says that they do, and of course that has stirred the debate. You know, if they are gambling, do we need some kind of government intervention or regulation in order to circumvent that and quote unquote protect gamers from predatory pricing models? And it has sparked a very passionate discussion on both sides of the issue. All you got to do is go to the Reset Era threads to see that people are just going back and forth about whether or not it is gambling, and if it is, whether or not we need government regulation. It is a very, very, it's a very important topic. And I want to get right into it. I want to start with JT because he hasn't been on for a while. JT, let's just right off the bat, are loot boxes gambling? Do you consider that a form of gambling?
Don't ask me that. Come on.
Let's hear it.
I mean, they've been around forever. They've been around for at least a couple of years now, not forever.
Mm-hmm.
But this seemed to be the straw that has broken at least EA's back. It's just, I mean, people are, I think, fed up with it, and then that's what we got was this big backlash because they've been implemented now to where they are the primary focus in the game, not just an addition to the game that allows for an additional revenue stream, adding on to the main, I guess, core of the game. Now the loot boxes are the core of the game for some of these, mostly EA titles, and so that's where it starts becoming a problem.
But I find myself bound by the legal definition of gambling. When you look at what gambling is, I don't like. I get that. I get that these things are predatory, and I get that they are bad for people with poor impulse control. And I know people who are impulse buyers when it comes to stuff like this, right? And it's bad. But at the same time, I don't consider it gambling simply because no matter what happens, you're getting a return on your investment.
I mean, to me, it's more like a Wonder Ball than a slot machine. Like with a Wonder Ball, you don't know what you're getting, but you're getting some fucking chocolate, and there will be something inside that chocolate ball.
Even if it's
pretty much getting
money.
Yeah, but like, okay, so what's the new craze? Those munchkins or whatever they're called. Like, it was the #2 most hot selling item this fall.
I have no idea.
Oh yeah, I saw. Are these those things that hang off your finger?
It's like the collectibles, I think they're called.
Yeah.
Oh god. Okay. Yeah. Those things.
So that's the shit that just pisses me off because that is like, it's like selling physical loot boxes to kids. And I think that's when it becomes a problem. It's like, it's that addictive. I don't know what I'm gonna get, and there's no guarantee that you're gonna get what you want. Like, what if that kid already has that certain character? What if they already have, that Darth Vader or whatever?
Is it really that different than sticking a quarter in one of those, turn crank machines at the supermarket and getting a little ball that has a stupid figurine in it?
I don't think so.
It's the same shit. Like, that's not legal and that's not regulated. Like,
it's as long as that are spending tens of dollars at a time, as opposed to like, hey, Dad, can I have a quarter?
There's literally no amount of limit of quarters you could put in one of those machines if you get addicted enough. I'm just saying, like, it's the same thing. Like, not everyone gets addicted to stupid little turn crank quarter machines, and not everyone gets addicted to loot box, but you can, sure.
Yeah.
I'm of two
I'm
minds.
not saying it doesn't need to be regulated. I'm just saying, like, is it the same as like a slot machine?
Hold on. I want to get Zach's opinion. He was trying to cut in there. Zach, go ahead, bud.
I just mean I'm kind of two minds about it, right? On the one hand, I have a hard time distinguishing it from baseball cards or something like that. And in that sense, I don't consider baseball cards gambling. But what there's a lot of psychology that goes into how loot boxes are made and the animations that go along with a loot box, right? So this idea, when you play Uncharted 4 multiplayer or when you play Battlefront, not only do you get this crate and you get new things, it's this way it opens up slowly and the suspense. Like, they build suspense into it, and that's kind of the emotional reaction they're trying to get out of you. And like you're saying, it's I think objectively kind of predatory, or at least it's kind of hinging on this primal part of people. I don't know if a government should maybe be regulating it, but it's clear that gamers' voice. God, I hate using terms like that. Doesn't mean a lot to EA, right? I mean, if it did mean a lot to EA, then it wouldn't take 2 weeks for them to kind of pull back some of these systems.
Well, and that's the thing, right? Is that, I mean, if we want to talk about predatory, like, I don't think this would be the issue that it is if these loot boxes had not been so tied into the core progression system in the game.
Yeah, as an add-on to that's what I was saying earlier. As a something like a Madden Ultimate Team. This is how, like, one of the main parts of Madden now got started was you had your core single player and your core multiplayer, but then you also had this other mode. It was like Ultimate Team, where you could open these packs and get these players, but you didn't have to pay attention to it. Now, if you have like a game that's completely centered around the progression of that, and you have not a whole lot of meaningful other content, that's when it starts becoming a problem.
I mean, like, I've spent a lot of money on Overwatch loot boxes, and I've never felt ripped off or like that I wasn't getting what I paid for. Like, like, I know that I'm not going to get every skin that I want when I buy 10 loot boxes or whatever. But
those are cosmetic, though. Like,
exactly, it's cosmetic, and I'm okay with that. Where I draw the line is Battlefront 2, where you're getting star cards that make your grenades do more damage or go farther, whatever the fuck.
Exactly.
So, like, let's talk about government regulation, because that has been a big thing, and I have seen a lot of people on Reset Era practically begging for government regulation, asking for the government to step in and save us from evil EA.
I think government legislation or regulation would be the last resort. Like, if every other option fails, then let the government.
That is the least desirable outcome for me.
Okay, let me ask you a question then.
Okay, go ahead.
If not government regulation, who is going to maybe not regulate, but check and balance these companies from pulling a Battlefront 2?
I mean, it would be like the ESRB honestly should have stepped up on
No,
that.
it'll be the National Committee for Games Games Policy on Twitter. It'll be oh god, those guys. But
you know what I'm saying? Like,
I mean, yeah, I get what you're saying, dude. But at the same time, like, I have not to tap into my military experience, but I have been a part of the world where the government does step into private industry, and they do start regulating content and entertainment, and it is always suspect. And it is a very, very, very slippery slope. And not to get too political, but if there was any administration I don't want getting their hands in my favorite form of entertainment, it's this administration.
Well, you don't want your games getting taxed and a portion of the loot box going to
I don't want to give the government the precedent.
I think one of the things that we would see getting exceptionally confusing would be, imagine if it wasn't a federal government thing, right? Imagine if it was a state government thing like they do with gambling. I think that would be especially interesting. And then how does that impact international, games internationally? Like, how does Belgium's ruling affect Star Wars Battlefront 2, if at all?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't really, right? I mean, I don't know how you and that's like this is all probably a moot point anyway, because when you look at it defined as how the law, and I don't hear your cat at all, dude. But if we're talking about the letter of the law, it's not gambling, so I don't see the federal government stepping in anyway. But my issue is that if enough people scream loudly about it, the government is going to take notice, and we have seen the government try to regulate content in gaming before. We saw it with Mortal Kombat. We saw it with Night Trap. We saw it after Sandy Hook happened. It was a horrible tragedy. But if you guys remember, the government actually sat down with not just the ESRB, but developers and publishers and members of the gaming industry, and they said, okay, what can we do to try to mitigate this in the future? When in reality, the gaming industry had nothing to do with it. I mean, Adam Lanza's motivation for what he did had nothing to do with video games at all. And this is something that I see the government, they've been trying to get their hands in this piece of the pie for decades, and they're looking for a way. And call me a conspiracy theorist, or call me just too worried, paranoid, but I don't want to I don't want the precedent to be set. I don't want the cover because eventually.
When was the last time that the government actually got involved with video games in like a major way?
GTA San Andreas,
right?
No, it was Sandy Hook. It was
Oh.
Sandy Hook.
What happened with Sandy Hook? I'm not.
They just used it. They used it as scapegoats instead of talking about guns. They wanted to talk about, well, maybe he was playing too many violent games.
Yeah.
Okay. So that conversation is still around, huh?
Yeah, and like I said, the government actually sat down with the ESRB and members of the gaming industry, like Barack Obama and Joe Biden sat down with these people at the White House and said, okay, what do we do? And the gaming industry's like, well, I mean, what do you want us to do? I mean, we didn't do it.
Yeah, I mean, that's all the consumer's fault, to be honest. I hate to say that, but
don't elaborate on that.
I mean, like these game developers, they're just making a product, and the consumer can take that product however they want. It's not like the game developers' attention for them to make the product, for people to buy loot boxes. Like, they're encouraging loot boxes, but it's just there. The consumer, and if they see and they don't want to participate in loot boxes, they can totally avoid it.
I totally agree. I thought when you first said that, I thought you were talking about violence in games and the government getting involved, and I was like, oh
yeah,
no.
No.
Okay, you unpacked it. It makes a lot more sense.
I guess kind of that too, but we're not really like talking about that right now.
Yeah.
So I don't know, man. Like
but I don't know. I see why EA does it, but I also don't like the reaction from the online community about it.
It's also largely not having an impact. I don't know if any of you guys saw it, because I don't think it's any of our niche, but some information came out today about UFC 3's microtransactions.
Yeah, I heard vaguely about this, man.
Yeah.
It says it's worse than Battlefront.
Yeah. I mean, remember, EA has been doing what they're doing with Battlefront 2 in their sports titles for a couple of years now. And so maybe this is just kind of the natural extension of that. But it seems like progression is largely based around loot boxes, which is something that's particularly frustrating in a game where you want to create a character who's going to fight in a way where, like, I don't know a lot about MMA or UFC, but like you'd want to build strengths specifically. So the idea of random progression from random boxes seems strange for a game like that. But EA
will find a way to make it fucking work. They'll find a way to get it in there. And I had posited that the horrible reception to the loot boxes in Battlefront 2 would deter publishers from doing this, but I don't know. I'm not so sure anymore. At least not in the manner that EA implemented it in Battlefront 2, because I mean it was so blatant. Like I'm a huge Star Wars fan. Star Wars is my favorite film franchise of all time, and
Same.
I have not purchased Battlefront 2. And I am going to wait until Christmas so I can get it because I promised my son that I would get it for him. It's the only reason I'm buying it. The only reason I'm buying it.
Exact same situation, only with my nephew.
Yeah,
and that's the only way I'll experience that game unless I buy it used for $5.
And it makes me ill that I'm going to support this game with my dollars. But
I played Battlefront 1 to make me feel like satisfied.
You're on this game like Battlefront 2.
Another
got,
100
like,
years.
Progression.
Battlefront 1 didn't satisfy me. It made me think.
Yeah, well, no, I only played it for like
this
10
is
hours.
like
and
a
I was like, yep,
shell of
that's
its
everything I
glory,
need to see
and
from
just
this.
made me want to buy it on Steam, which I did, and then it got revived by what was that? GOG?
Yeah, it was GOG.
Yeah, GOG.
Yeah.
Is that? I wonder if that game actually still holds up.
It does. It's beautiful still by the modern standards have completely blown it out of the water, but I think it's still
as long
like
as it's mechanically
art-wise.
competent, hit detection is all still good and stuff.
You know,
Yeah.
I want another Star Wars game like The Force Unleashed, the first one. Like that game had problems, but fuck, it was fun. I want another. I want a good single player Star Wars game.
I don't think there has been a good single player Star Wars game in a long time.
The Force Unleashed was great, man. I remember.
I did not like either Force Unleashed.
Oh man, the second one sucked, but the first one was great. My buddy Joel and
the first one wasn't really that good either.
Oh man, no, you're wrong. My buddy Joel and I we were playing it at the same time, and he when it first came out, and he calls me, and I was like, dude, what do you think? And he says, I just threw a Wookiee through a tree, and I've waited my entire life to say that.
I mean, it wasn't bad. It was like a 7 out of 10. It was decent, but I'm saying there hasn't been a good Star Wars single player.
That's one of my
game.
most favorite games I've ever played on the PSP. Like portable Star Wars where you could just be a badass.
Yeah, those were good. Yep.
The only good level there was only one good level in Shadows of the Empire.
Oh, Brandon, you're getting spicy, man.
It's not that's not spicy at all. That was spicy 20
level?
years ago. But
what level? What level?
The fucking Hoth level, obviously. It's the only one that actually controls any decently. And doesn't have the camera fucking spazzing out in a million different
So you don't like any of the on-foot sections?
No, the on-foot sections are awful. The controls.
Dude, the Boba Fett boss fight was amazing.
It's awful. It's so bad.
No, get out of here.
It's fucking bullshit.
The IG-88 fight is one of the most like harrowing experiences of all time.
When you were 12.
I like that one Star Wars game.
Maybe, but who cares? It was fun. I'd play it again.
It was fun. It was fun for the time. I loved Shadows of the Empire when I was 12, but it certainly doesn't hold up.
Well, no, it by today's standards, no, of course not. I mean,
well, yeah.
Not.
Oh yeah, no.
Today
the game looks and plays like
the
shit.
Jedi Knight games are still fun and offer you force powers in a way that no other game does.
The Jedi Academy games are
janky. I mean, it doesn't.
But those games were way more playable than even Shadows of the Empire was for their time, even.
Look, I think we get
Jedi Knight 2. Jedi Knight 2 controlled very well on a mouse and keyboard.
I think we can all agree
Shadows of the Empire. Do you remember the fucking speeder bike level in Shadows of the Empire? The whole level is just fucking ramming into walls because that thing controlled like shit.
Okay,
that was like
Star Wars sucks. So let's move on.
Oh Jesus Christ, Jay.
Anyway, no, Shadows of the Empire is one of the most overrated games ever.
I like the Star Wars game where you control the ship. It was made by Factor 5.
I'll tell you this much.
Rogue Squadron? That's classic, yeah.
I'll tell you this much.
I like that one.
If they made a new Knights of the Old Republic single player game for the Xbox, I would go out tomorrow and buy an Xbox One S.
You know, I would really be in the mood for a Star Wars RPG.
You know, KOTOR on the One X is at 4K right now. I mean, there's only so much you can do to make that game look look sharper, but it honestly looks all right. Like it doesn't look that bad.
I mean, it didn't even really look
at 120 frames.
What's the hat?
Does it run at 120 frames?
I mean, no, it's capped at 60.
I think it was capped at 60. Yeah.
But I mean, it looks all right. It plays all right.
And it still plays great. The first Knights of the Republic is great.
All right, we're getting off the rails here. Let's get back on topic. I think we talked the loot box stuff to death. I want to hit a spicy topic. I want to get some spice in here. I want to talk about Xenoblade Chronicles.
Yes, let's stop talking about Star Wars and talk about anime titties.
Let's talk about anime boobies for a minute.
I haven't even seen. Okay, what's this character's name? I need to get informed.
Pyra. So just Google Xenoblade Chronicles 2 and Pyra.
Am I gonna have to delete my browser history after this?
No.
You'll just get added to the list.
It's just really egregious.
So wait, what? Am I looking at the wrong character? She's cute. What?
No, she's cute, but like I'll tell you what, there are some gifs out there that are just...
I just saw a gif. Hold on. I have to. So the that GIF, as I'm scrolling through this Google image search, I'm like, oh, these pics are all pretty tame. And then I see this one GIF of her. She like puts up a barrier to block a spell, and the camera pans like backwards around her, and she sticks her ass out.
Yeah, well, and there's one where she's like
hilarious.
uppercutting an enemy with a weapon, and her chest jiggles in the most. I mean, there's just so. There has been a lot of talk about over-sexualization in games, and Pyra is a great example of that, right? Like her character design is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, I'm still going to pick up Xenoblade Chronicles 2 and play it. I'm excited about it, but I do find her character design to be off-putting. And I guess my question is, this has been something that's been floating around on Twitter today, and I kind of picked up on it. There have been a few reviews that have docked points from Xenoblade Chronicles 2 for the over-sexualization of characters like Pyra. And I wanted to pose the question to you guys: Is it acceptable for reviewers to say this is a great, fun, mechanically sound game? It's got a great battle system. I really enjoyed my time with it. It's one of the best JRPGs I've played in years. However, I'm docking 1.5 points from my score because Pyra is incredibly over-sexualized. I've seen some people say that it's okay, and I've seen some people say that it is less than desirable because it has nothing to do with the core gameplay itself, or at least it shouldn't be important enough to actually dock a review score. So I wanted to ask you guys, what do you think about reviewers docking points simply because they don't like the design of a single character? And Zach, I know you've got an opinion on this, so I would like to start with you this time.
Yeah. So first and foremost, if this matters, people, this isn't my genre of games. It's like I pick up. So you can discount my opinion if you want. One of the things that I think we should talk about, and obviously you guys are all aware of it, is we're a incredibly homogenous podcast. And so we're not going to cover all the bases as well as we should. But I think one of the things that I want to talk about instead of how they talk about or how they portray women is how does it feel to be pandered to? And I feel like it's incredibly cheap, the way that they're trying to bring in a certain sect of gamers. Not only is it alienating and upsetting to a certain percentage of people playing your game, but you're also just treating me like that's something that will bring me in as a customer, and that bothers me. I mean, this has been going on forever, right? And I think it's acceptable for a reviewer to say, look, this is incredibly problematic, and I'm frankly taking away points because, I mean, first of all, subjective opinion. But secondly, if you saw a film and there was a similar character that was just portrayed in a terrible way, you'll see that in review feedback in that way too. I think it's fair to take points off, I guess, to beat around the bush.
I mean, all a score is just a ballpark figure on your rough enjoyment of the game overall. So, like, it's literally anything could affect your enjoyment of the game. There's no scientific process behind assigning a score to a video game. It's just you just throw one out there. I mean, yeah, they have standards and stuff like within ranges of 7 to 8 is good and 8 to 9 is excellent or whatever. But still, when a reviewer comes up with a score, they're just fucking throwing a number out there based on their overall feelings.
Well, and so opinions on this in chat seem split down the middle. And Diogo brings up a really good point, actually. He says, adding to this, scores are the most idiotic thing ever.
Yeah.
And I agree with that. That's a whole other conversation. But yeah, I don't like scores either. But I didn't see when I initially saw her. I don't even know if it's her character design so much as it is her character animations, right? Like, I saw her character design, like Brandon. I was like, oh, okay, she's an anime girl.
See a little bit more, and you're like, oh, okay. Well,
yeah, I'm like, okay, she's an anime girl, whatever. And then those GIFs started coming out, and there was this one GIF that stands out in my mind of her blocking. I think it was her blocking an attack. She had a blocking attack.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
And she brings it up, and the camera pans around, and her chest bounces up and down in the most fucking ridiculous manner I have ever seen. And the thing is I really want to play Xenoblade Chronicles 2. I'm going to pick it up. But if my wife walked in and she saw that scene, I would feel weird about it, Like, I would feel like, oh, like, I don't want you watching me do that. And that's weird for me to say because this is just a JRPG. Does that make any sense? Like
it does. I mean,
Or a
if you're
question out there.
if you're a game developer and you're saying, okay, let's kind of sexualize this, spice it up a little bit, that's fine. You know, that's your choice. But why not do it for the dudes too? You know, like have some big aping muscles coming out, popping out.
I mean,
Like
Yakuza, right? Isn't Yakuza like infamous for also having like some pretty hunky dudes in it as well?
well, you could also go play. You could also go. I mean, you could always go play the Cho Iniki games and just watch some guys dong bounce up and down. But I mean,
yeah, I mean, like what I don't. You're free to assign whatever score you want based on your preferences. Like Zach and I's preferences are probably different, so he would probably score something like Xenoblade Chronicles way lower than me because that's not his aesthetic, or you know, I don't know what you do or do not like, but you know what I mean. Like it's completely subjective. But if you are, I don't think it's fair to the developers, you know, to say like, oh well, we don't like what you made, so it's bad.
Yeah, no, and it's not like this game is bad because it's made this way. It's look, if you want to make an incredibly horny video game, that's fine. But it's also fine for me to be like, feel like I'm being pandered to, and to kind of pass on that, right?
well, and that you know, that's kind of my thing. Is that you like? I think what gets me is that every other character in the game has just like your normal JRPG design, right? There's a lot of buckles, there's a lot of crazy armor. Which makes Pyra's design all the stranger, right? Because it's not like we're playing a Senran Kagura game, you know. Like it's not like we're playing, you know, Dead or Alive volleyball. I mean, it's a JRPG where every other character's design is more or less normal. At least every other member of your party. And then you have Pyra, whose chest is bouncing around every time she makes the slightest motion, and her. I don't know if what she's wearing passes. I don't know if is that a skirt or whatever, but damn, we've got two J's in the podcast now, which is amazing. He's duplicated himself.
Can I throw a question out there?
Yeah, no, please.
Is Xenoblade Chronicles 2 the BMX XXX of JRPG?
That game was originally had Dave Mira's name on it. It was Dave Mira's BMX XXX, and he was
I forgot about that.
You guys
There was like a
remember?
whole, like, there's a really good write-up on the whole thing.
Game.
Remember they like the Game Informer article, or maybe it was like EGM or something, of like the woman doing the trick with the black bar over it. Like that is one of the most famous images.
And then the game ended up being absolute trash. Like, it wasn't even close to a decent game.
You mean to tell me that a game that was just trying to sell its sexuality was trash by design?
But it was it was based on. So the Dave Mira games were around when the Tony Hawk games were first coming out. And they were pretty good, like BMX games.
They were awesome. Like
yeah, they were awesome.
Soundtracks in the game were just like rolling around.
I think most people just expected BMX XXX to be like a Dave Mira game with titties, and it wasn't. It was a lot worse than that.
So, Black Metal Gamer in chat asks, or he brings up an interesting point. He says, "Remember Dragon's Crown and those Tiggle unnecessary biddies." I do remember that, and that was jarring as well. I played Dragon's Crown with my wife actually, and we were doing the character select, and I selected the big armored barbarian, and she went over to the witch, and she kind of looked for a minute. She looked over at me and she was like, "Seriously, is this one of those games?" And I was like, No. And so she picked the witch, and the minute we started walking across the screen, because it's a beat 'em up, so it's a side scroll. She starts moving the witch across the screen, and her chest is just practically hitting her in the face. And we both collapsed in laughter, and we couldn't take the game seriously anymore. It's like, holy shit, why? Like, what's the point? And I had kind of thought that we were moving past this, which is why I was a little I was disappointed even more so to see this in Xenoblade Chronicles 2, simply because I don't remember. I played Xenoblade Chronicles, and I don't remember any character designs like this at all. At all. I don't remember any females being designed like this whatsoever.
Everybody was normal. They had normal clothes, normal,
And they did. And it's the same developer. Monolith is this. It's the same developer, same people working on the game. So I like if there had been a precedent in Xenoblade Chronicles, at least then like it wouldn't make it okay, but at least then I'd be like, okay, well, I expected this. But
now it's like a creative decision as they're like looking to broaden their scope of audience.
Exactly. And I don't like, obviously I know what they were going for, but I mean the first Xenoblade Chronicles was very well received critically. This was like a 92 it's like a 92 Metacritic, and it sold incredibly well.
It's also a different method of it. It's like 2 is way more anime than 1 was. I mean, they still had cartoony looking characters in 1, but the aesthetic, the art style, everything about 2 is just way more towards that side of, I guess, all-encompassing word for it would be anime.
So my question, just really quickly, and this is again not my genre, not a game series I've spent enough time looking at. Do you think some of these aesthetic changes are to reach a broader audience, or is it because there's more power in developers' hands when it comes to the Nintendo Switch compared to the Wii U anyway?
I think somebody else can jump in on this too, but I think it's maybe a little bit of both.
Okay.
I'm trying to figure out what that audience is, because this is the Nintendo Switch. You know,
right.
like it's not like and you know, Nintendo is, and that's the other thing, right? Is that Nintendo is notoriously family friendly and notoriously down on this kind of stuff. You know, I mean, this is the House of Mario. You know, I mean, these are the people that you know. Brandon, you remember in Final Fantasy III for Super Nintendo, they would edit out. Yeah, the censorship was unbelievable.
Earthbound.
I like the point that Kogasu and Hoj make in chat. Kogasu said I think of Bayonetta too, having more fun with it than just being pandering or what have you. And Hoj brought up Lollipop Chainsaw for stylized, and it makes sense within the context of the game versus, you know, boobies for the sake of boobies.
And that's kind of a thing, right? Like, and somebody mentioned in the chat a little bit earlier that we should explore these topics and sexuality in games. Like, that's absolutely something I agree with. But I think there's a difference between having actual sexuality in games that's supposed to either move a narrative around or evoke a feeling or a legitimately interesting feeling in a game. Rather than, again, just trying to like get those horny teens who bought your game excited, right? Like,
you mean like if something is like purposefully like B-movie schlock, for example?
Yeah,
like it's there for a purpose,
right? Well, and like when I think about sexuality in games, I'm okay with. The first Wolfenstein comes to mind. Well, New Colossus, or I'm sorry, New Order has some brief sexuality in it that's like kind of meant to move around both a feeling of the world the characters are in, but also just the narrative. Compared to a game like this, right, where there's just like, why not have breasts in your face? And like, I don't think that's a great design a choice, but I don't know.
No, I can see why it's unappealing. I mean, it's just.
No, I completely agree. I completely agree, and like that scene in Wolfenstein, and you're talking about
the train sequence,
with Anya and BJ. There was a purpose to that. It was like two people who were in a world with no hope, and they were like, they're like, oh fuck it, we're on a train. This may be the last time that we're together, and so yeah, I'm tripping out with these.
I mean, it's like a sex
podcast are putting in their private chat, but yeah, I failed to see the reason for Pyra's just extreme over sexualization, especially on a Nintendo console. Like, I was not expecting this on a Nintendo. Like, there's no precedent for it in Xenoblade Chronicles, and I just
the Switch has a lot of like anime games like Toho and stuff that you wouldn't expect on the Switch.
Yeah, but nothing like this though. Like nothing like
Toho's pretty sexual.
Is it? Like,
yeah. I mean, does anybody remember the Fire Emblem? I think it was Fates. Whenever that got brought over, whenever like the big hooboo about the changed text, like there was a couple text lines that were suggestive or something. I forget what the exact topic was. So it's not like the first time that this has ever happened with the Nintendo franchise.
I mean, hell, Fire Emblem didn't really get popular here in the States until it went towards more of the anime look.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, but yeah, I mean, I don't think it's wrong for a reviewer to like take away points for like boobs like that. I mean, like, if it's like killing the aesthetic for them, and the aesthetic is very important for a game, then it's a reviewer's opinion. If they didn't like it, they didn't like it.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
I'm split on the issue. I get it, and I understand why a viewer would want to take points off for over sexualizing a character, and but at the same time, I feel like some of that, like we brought up Bayonetta. Bayonetta is a good example. I remember the Polygon review of Bayonetta when they stated, I mean, they openly stated, they said we are docking points from this game because of how ridiculously over sexualized the entire game is. So we are docking points. The game itself is great, the gameplay is great, but we're docking points for it.
Yeah, I mean, I've had friends that haven't played Bayonetta because of that.
But at the same time, like I feel like, I don't know. I played Bayonetta, and I mean, yeah, it was risque, but I didn't think it was. I didn't think it was like playing a porno or anything. And the Bayonetta's sexuality is part of her character, and she's a confident protagonist, and she's well aware of who she is. And it was. I mean, it's a B. Like I said earlier, it's like a B movie game. Like it's there to serve a purpose, right? Like it.
I mean, it has budget Joe Pesci.
Exactly. Yeah. Budget Joe Pesci. It was there for a reason, which is why I had a, and I didn't even like Bayonetta. Like I played through the game and I was like, I don't like this
Fucking
game.
Crazy. Get off this podcast. How did
I don't like Bayonetta.
How did we even let you become the host?
Because I created the motherfucker.
Exactly.
But
if it wasn't for that, you would have been kicked off a long time ago.
But yeah, I don't even like Bayonetta. But I'm sure people in chat are not gonna like that.
But how do you not like Bayonetta? I will not let.
I like the first Bayonetta. I don't like the second one.
Poor Brandon. But yeah, like
Switch.
At the same time, I took that Polygon review and I was like, I don't agree with this. Like, I don't agree with docking the game points because it was over sexualized. Because I mean, again, there's a purpose for it, and there's a reason for it. And in Xenoblade Chronicles 2, I understand it, and I get why people would want to dock points for that, because there is, if you look at the greater context of the game and you look at the first game and the way the character designs were there, and you look at the rest of the designs for the other characters, I understand why that is it's off-putting to me. I understand why that is off-putting to people, and I don't have a problem with people docking points from Xenoblade Chronicles 2 because of Pyro's design. It doesn't take away from the game. It doesn't mean it's a bad game. It is repudiating, in my mind, what are completely unnecessary design choices.
You know, can we actually bring up the previous Xenoblade for a minute?
Yeah, go ahead.
Like, so if anyone doesn't remember, the first Xenoblade almost didn't come over to America because, you know, Nintendo didn't think it was going to sell and whatnot.
Yep, I remember that.
So, it gets brought over and has very limited release. And we just brought that Fire Emblem didn't really pick up in America until, you know, it went for more of the anime look, and it could appeal to like the Tumblr crowd and whatnot. Do you think Nintendo has like a hand with like the development of Xenoblade Chronicles X and 2 to be like, hey, Fire Emblem starts selling more, we made more anime. It's like we want this to be more anime to appeal to more people.
That's actually a really good question. I don't have a good answer for you. Does anybody else? Does anybody want to try to take that? Because I honestly have no idea.
I don't know. I can't speak towards that either, because I personally like the aesthetic of Xenoblade Chronicles 1 way more than 2. 2's just taking it too far down that spectrum. I love the simple stylization of the first one. So
yeah, I mean, I really like the look of the first one. I didn't enjoy the game, but I like the look.
Yeah, the decision to go, like, I like the aesthetic of Xenoblade Chronicles 2. I just feel like going full anime was kind of a weird, an unnecessary decision. You know, I guess
that's the best way to put it. They went full anime.
They went full anime.
It might sell more because of that. So who knows?
Okay, well, we'll go ahead and move on to our next topic. I feel like we've kind of gone as far as we can there. I don't know what happened to Finn. But oh, look at that! He fell asleep. He says I passed out for a hot second. I told him to jump in. I hope he jumps in. But our final topic before we start answering some questions from Twitter, we got some good ones from Twitter. Is just using Final Fantasy 15 as an example of adding content to games. A long time, months, and maybe even over a year after the game releases. And I'm not talking about like DLC or expansion packs. I'm talking about actually adding scenes to the game that either fundamentally change the story or add to the story that people who won't go back a second time and play the game might miss. So basically giving the story additional context a year later that was not there to begin with. And what I mean by that, again, using Final Fantasy 15 as an example, is a year after the game is released, not only have we seen DLC episodes been released, like episode Ignis, which is coming out in a few weeks, and episode Prompto and episode Gladiolus, we now have, or we have had, additional scenes added in Chapter 13, for example, which expand upon the story there, and the stories of characters like the Emperor and Rebus. There is additional context now on the train in episode, I think it's 12, between characters like Noctis and Gentiana, and like huge story beats that explain why Arden and Ifrit are in cahoots. These are all things that were not in the game itself, and now they've added character swapping in the game. There's Finn. There he is. Wait. Good morning, Sunshine.
Hi, beautifuls.
We're talking unnecessary, or not unnecessary, but we're talking additional changes to games over time, like Final Fantasy 15, and whether or not that's a good thing. So you joined at the right time.
I can't wait until that game comes out of early access.
So that is a joke that I have seen thrown about a lot. And even though Final Fantasy 15 was my game of the year last year, and it's my second favorite Final Fantasy, I do understand the sentiment. Because there are people who will not go back and play that game a second time, and now there's additional story, a lot more actually, additional story content that explains things that were too vague the first go around, and people will miss out on that. And now they've added character swapping. As of next week, you'll be able to play as every single party member. Yeah, you didn't know this, dude?
No, dude, I haven't heard about that. That's weird ass shit.
So now you can switch between Noctis and Prompto at Ignis and Gladiolus on the fly. Just switch between party members. Which changes.
But they all play the same, right?
No, they all play different. Like, dude, like Prompto goes into third person mode with an assault rifle and a bazooka.
That's cool. I dig that. I mean, that should have been in the game from the beginning. But. It
changes the game. It changes the flow of combat completely. Like, it completely changes it. But is that a good thing? Like, should we be encouraging developers to do that more? Because again, like, you know, as much as I love the game, you can make the argument this is all shit that should have been in the game from Jump Street. And I want to throw it to you guys to see what you think.
Yeah, but you know what? Like, I don't think Final Fantasy 15 should have came out now. I mean, that game was in development for so long; it had to come out last year.
Yeah. I don't know. What I don't know. What do the rest of you guys think?
I agree with Brandon. I mean, like, it's been in development for so long, they had to make up for their losses. And I mean, you know, the game is still technically in development, I guess, but you know, they've made their money off of it.
I cannot fault a developer or publisher for devoting time and resources to further developing a game after release for free.
Yeah,
well,
for free.
Somewhat for free.
Well,
like,
somewhat. Yeah,
the episodes are under the season pass, right?
So Jesse in chat, actually, he said, do the extra scenes make the characters even slightly interesting, appealing in any way? Well, first of all, I feel like the characters are interesting.
I thought they were too.
But the answer is yes, especially in the scenes between, like, for example, Noctis and Shiva on the train. You get like all this backstory as to why Ifrit is the way he is in the game and why he's working for Arden, and you get more story about Arden. You get more context between Rebus. You actually see because in the game, when the game first released, like, okay, spoilers, but we're talking about a fucking year old game.
Go ahead and spoil that scene because it makes no fucking sense.
Haven't played it.
Yeah,
so let's just ruin this.
So the character Rebus in Chapter 13, he's a major character in the game. Right? He's a major character in the game.
He's the brother of.
He's the brother of Lewd.
On Chapter 9.
He's the well, whatever. You're never gonna finish it anyway. He's the brother of Luna, and in Chapter 13, you just find his body. Like, he's a major character, and you just find but he doesn't even die on screen.
You just find him random, and
you just find him laying there dead, and there's a bunch of notes around him as to what happened, right? And then,
and it's not only just that; he has an entire character arc twist where he goes from being like the bad guy to being like sympathetic towards the situation.
And then
you're like, why? It doesn't even explain why. He just
doesn't explain why he died. Yeah,
he suddenly changes his mind.
And then he's like, oh, never mind, I want to help you now. And,
yeah, exactly. And then he died. It's like, what the fuck?
And then of course he's revived, and you fight him as a boss.
Yeah,
but
and that
with
boss fight sucked ass.
Oh, I love the boss fight. He was hard.
Oh,
He was hard. He was the hardest
boss. Fuck. Yeah, it was hard as fuck.
He was the hardest boss in the game. But with the additional scene in chapter 13, you actually see Arden kill Ravis. You see this. There's this whole scene between Ravis and the Emperor where he faces off against the Emperor, and he's like, "This is unacceptable. We can't be, breeding demons and stuff." And then he's blown out of the room, and then Arden comes and kills him. Okay, so that's why he's missing his arm, and that's how he died. And this was added, like what, Brandon, like 5 months after the game came out.
Like yeah.
And as much as I love the game, I'm like, why wasn't this there to begin with? Who, like, I understand it, but people who played the game
at launch
and won't go back.
Yeah,
to
like
play
me.
It again.
Like me. I played it at launch, and I will never play it again.
They're not going to get that context.
I've recently went back. Like, all the changes that they've made have kind of got me into it again.
Oh, I can't wait to play it. Like, I've got 136 fucking hours in that game.
Jesus.
And I did do I did everything. I did all the hunts.
That's too much.
No, it's not. I love Final Fantasy. And I'm going to play through the whole thing again when episode Ignis comes out. I'm going to play through the whole thing and just do the DLCs as I go. And they'll have all that and with the new combat system and the added, scenes, it's going to be great. But I feel like this is all stuff that should have been in the game from Jump Street. Like, I love the game, but we have to criticize the things we love. And this is like, I love the game, so I like reasons to go back to it, but at the same time, I'm not sure I want this on for developers because it's work for Square Enix, right? Like, Final Fantasy, people are still.
Well, it's not just Square Enix. I mean, look at Drive Club.
Yeah, but this is different though, Finn. This isn't a Drive Club situation. I mean, they're actually adding additional context to a very story-based game.
Yeah.
I mean, hell, Noctis goes into the Tekken 7 universe now and fights.
Yeah, I mean, dude, right? I mean, Final Fantasy 15 is everywhere. This is a strategy that has worked out very well for Square Enix.
Yeah. All the cross-promotional stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah, didn't they do like a really bizarre Assassin's Creed promo last summer?
They did.
Yeah, you can.
No,
I just played the Assassin's Festival inside of Final Fantasy 15, and it was like very confusing. Where am I at? What game am I playing right now?
The festivals in that game have been confusing.
It's cool though.
Don't even get me started on the cup noodle stuff because that was just great. Like,
I definitely.
I think that's hilarious. Yeah.
I definitely love the MMO approach that Square is taking with Final Fantasy. Like, I can see why people don't like it, but at the same time, it's like, it shows that they're listening to criticism of the game, and they're taking some stride to fix it, I guess.
But beyond that, again, this has been a very successful model for Square Enix. People are still talking about the game a year, and they're playing it a year after release.
We're talking about it right now.
We're talking about it right now, and I'm not sure that I want other games to adopt this model.
So
I mean, it's pretty much like a living single player game. You beat it. It's a game you play by yourself, but it's still going on, and you can just hop back in any time, and it's doesn't mean new.
All right, I want to jump to Finn and then Zach, because Finn, you haven't been here, so go ahead, man.
No, but I mean, the problem is, it's the good of that is that they're adding the episodic content of each character that focuses on them. That's fine. That's the DLC, the stuff with the character switching. That's
but I'm not talking about the DLC though.
My problem though is that they are adding and changing story and adding stuff that should have been there from the get-go. I don't want to give them credit for me jumping on day one and being an early adopter and playing hardcore till I platinum the game, and yet find out that I got 60% of the story. I am not going to give them credit. I'm not going to cheer them for that garbage. It's the same thing that happens in Nippon Ichi with the release of Ys 8. They just had an article on that where the entire script got patched and rewritten 2 months after the game launched because it was so broken and poorly implemented. Yeah. They patched in an update that completely rewrote the entire script of the game, and I just don't think games like that in Final Fantasy 15 should be applauded for that. I mean, yeah, it's good that they finally did it, but it should have been there from day one. An RPG should have its story set and not a work in progress. The story should not be part of the games as a service model.
Zach, I see you nod, man. What do you think?
Yeah, so a couple things. I think I've got 3 things to unpack. Sorry. So going on what Finn's saying, I think going back 2 months later and fixing your narrative is awful.
I mean, hold on. I mean, it's not like a ridiculous concept in the movie industry. People put out director's cuts all the fucking time.
Yeah,
sure. But okay, so hang on. So here's my thing, right? So I think when you wait 2 months, I mean, and I guess with indie developers and smaller developers, maybe 2 months is the difference between your company existing or not. As we saw with Hob last month. But I think it's a little bit different when it comes to 2 months later and 15 months later. Or 12 months later, I guess, with Final Fantasy. Because within 2 months, you think, okay, well, reasonably they could delay this by 60 to 90 days, and they could put out a coherent narrative that makes a lot more sense. Ideally, it would score better. Ideally, it would sell more copies. And so I think that's a little bit more problematic. But one of the bigger things I want to get into with Final Fantasy 15, adding this context and more content later on, is would this content exist if the game hadn't sold as well and people weren't asking for it?
And that's what I was saying before. Like, it wouldn't have happened.
Right, and because if people stopped talking about this game, if the game didn't sell well, I don't think you would have seen this context come into the game.
Because nobody would have cared.
Right, no one would care. And so, and I think somebody mentioned this in the chat, this might just be a single player from Square Enix making its first foray into games as a service, right? I mean, we see this all the time in MMOs where they'll go back to what they call a campaign, and they'll add content or change content or throttle difficulty or whatever months or years after release. And so I totally think that the feeling like you were robbed of certain gameplay elements, when you played it a year ago at launch, I totally get that sentiment, right? We're feeling like you were robbed, but also they're still selling copies.
Yep.
I mean, like I think last week for Black Friday, I saw it $20, physical and digital. They're still trying to get people to jump on that game. I almost bought it.
I mean, it's a fantastic game.
Yeah, right.
I loved it.
Right, but I mean, what's the bigger sin, right? Is having the time and money on your hands to go back and fix your game's flaws, or saying, well, we don't want to screw over our early adopters, so nobody gets this content.
Yeah,
I don't know. Yeah.
No, I mean it's a slippery slope. And again, I'm of two minds on it. Like I love Final Fantasy 15, and honestly, I guess I'm part of the problem because I love having a reason to go back and play a game that I love. Like games that I really love are like movies that I really love to me. Like I can go back and play them again with no problem. There are games I play every year. Chrono Trigger is a good example. I play Chrono Trigger every summer. But at the same time, yeah, I mean, this is not something that I would want to see adopted by other studios. And I'm worried that it will. I'm worried that we will see it because it's been a very successful model for that particular game. And I am worried that other studios will say, you know what? The game's not ready, but fuck it. Let's just release it. And it worked for Square Enix. We can just add new context to the story. We can add new characters. We can add new scenes piecemeal over the next few months, and it will keep bringing people back in. And I'm afraid that is something that is going to catch on.
So my question is, and I guess there are inherent big differences, right? But like looking at the first two Destiny expansions, especially, they added some lore and a little bit of context to the quote-unquote story of vanilla Destiny. Do you think this is a big enough difference just because of the genre being different?
Well, first of all, I just want to point out that like whoever's breathing into the mic, it sounds like a fucking Tyrannosaurus Rex is like walking. So
I hope it's not me.
No, it's not you. I don't know who it is, but it's like,
all right.
Like, holy shit, what was that? No, you're not bothering me. I was just like, holy shit. So Zach, can you ask that question again, man? Because I was just
sure. No, you're fine. So my question is, when we look at games like Destiny and the original two expansions, they kind of expand on the lore that was originally in vanilla Destiny. So what is so different about Final Fantasy revisiting their game and improving some of its lore and adding context in this? And I'm not defending one over the other.
I mean, Destiny was always marketed as an MMO, and MMOs always have expansion packs to add to the lore. So I think it was perfectly fine for Destiny to add to the lore of its two expansion packs. I mean, we look at World of Warcraft. you know, each expansion like adds on to the story and, you know, expands the story. So there's nothing wrong with that.
Okay, so you think it's primarily like the genre basically is?
I mean, like Final Fantasy 15 is a single player role playing game.
Sure.
That is, you know, being patched with, you know, added cutscenes and whatnot. And I mean, it's a totally different genre.
Yeah, and I guess I see, like, originally I wanted to say it's no big deal that they're doing this, but then, like, I'm thinking, and I'm like, okay, but, like, what if the developers of Firewatch, Campo Santo, were like, you know, we heard a lot of feedback about our ending, so today we're going to release a change to the end of Firewatch.
But I would also
be a little bit chapped about it, right? I mean, it's a little bit...
I would also like to add that Square is, you know, the developer and publisher of Final Fantasy 14, which had a really rocky launch. You know, had to go back into development, and that game
that's a great example. Yeah,
that game's gotten patches since, you know, it's been relaunched, and each patch does add story missions to it, and you actually have to beat those story missions in the patch before you can move on to the expansion packs.
Well, you know what? And I want to point out something that Diogo in chat says, and he makes a good point. He says you are all supposing this is intentional in the sense of ignoring feedback, and he's right. A lot of this is based on player feedback. A lot of this is people asking Square, you know, and that's something that we hadn't considered. This is a lot of people asking Square, hey, can you expand on this? Or we'd like more, you know, story on Arden, or we want to know more about, you know, Ravis, or, you know, what about Luna? A lot of this is people asking for it, and in a way, you kind of have to, I guess, commend Square Enix for actually coming back and delivering on that.
No, but at the same time, asking to have a little backstory or explanation into your major game's only villain
should be unnecessary.
Part of the game. I'm like, again, we're giving them credit or giving them a pass on things that, for all the other Final Fantasy games that came before it, were just part of the package. Like, we shouldn't have to have taken it for granted that we would have character development.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Like, I love Final Fantasy 15. I'm with you on the it's a good game train, but I don't think that this is something to be applauded. That's all.
I don't. Again, I'm part of the problem because I'm going to play the whole thing over again.
I would just like to point out in the chat, someone did mention that, you know, that Final Fantasy 14 and Final Fantasy 15 are two completely different things. I realize that. I was just bringing it up because, you know, Square's been successful with Final Fantasy 14 and how they've worked with it. So maybe they thought, like, hey, you know, Final Fantasy 15 didn't have the best reception when it came out. So, like, let's implement our strategy with Final Fantasy 14 to Final Fantasy 15.
I will say that Final Fantasy 14 has become a case study in the industry on how to correct and like how to course correct.
Yeah.
So, I kind of want to, we got about maybe 25 minutes left, and this has been some great conversation so far, but I want to move on to some questions we got on Twitter, because we got some pretty fun questions from people. So on Twitter, we had, and this is something we'll do again next week, we asked some questions from the official Twitter, and we got some really good ones, and we'll do the first one from @ChiefTama. He asked, does it bother any, and Zach, keep your ears open on this one, because this is especially relevant to you. Does it bother any of you that PUBG will run at 60 frames per second on the Xbox One X and most likely be at 30 frames per second on the Xbox One S? Some console players are raging and PC players think it's funny that they're raging. What do you guys think about it? Because that's actually a really interesting question. What do you guys think about this? Because, yeah. Because like ostensibly I mean, it's all on Xbox Live, right? So people playing at 60 frames a second will be able to play with people playing it at a lower frame rate.
Yeah. So okay. I feel bad. I got long answers all the time. Do other people want to go first?
It's just like playing on a PC. Some people have been playing at 60 frames. Some people have been playing at 30 frames. I mean, and you know, Microsoft's already, like, you know, markets the Xbox One X as the most powerful console. I don't think it should be surprising. You know, PUBG is going to be their big holiday game. I think we've all seen that already.
Yeah, but isn't it problematic if...
It's not problematic. I mean, people build PCs all the time, and, you know, I could hop into a game of, let's say, Battlefield 1 right now, and someone's running a game at 120 frames, and I'm only running at 30, but there's nothing I can do about that, and there's nothing they can do about that, and there's nothing DICE can do about that.
That's the point that immediately comes to mind for me, but the thing with consoles is that everybody's on a level playing field, and that's how it has been since consoles have been
ignoring shitty internet, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, the idea is that with this box, you know, everybody's going to be on the same wavelength here.
Yeah.
I mean, so I am not a
but this is something that's new. You know, it's a mid-gen refresh, so this is kind of uncharted territory in terms of consoles, not factoring PCs into that.
I've played about 5 minutes of PUBG. How important is frame rate in PUBG as opposed to just being precise?
It's fairly.
Well, it depends, right? Like, so I don't have a crazy powerful PC, but it's probably more powerful than the Xbox One and PS4 probably, but not by much. Frame rate for PUBG matters, especially when it's like, you know, like what generic run around looking for ammo, whatever, doesn't matter, right? But when you're in a firefight, life or death. The thing is, with frame rate in this game is that 30 to 60 in a third-person game isn't huge to me. I mean, I'm pretty sensitive to 30 frames per second in a first-person game. The only game that does it okay in my mind is Destiny and Destiny 2. And for the most part, this game is third-person. You can put it in first-person, but you're at a disadvantage unless you're in the first-person servers. And so I don't think I would notice it too badly at 30 frames per second, so long as it's a solid 30 frames per second. But I mean, at 60 frames per second, people will have advantages turning around corners. They will.
Yep. I mean, there's really no getting around that.
Yeah. But again, they have, and I know if we want to pretend PC doesn't exist and that ecosystem doesn't exist, then yeah, that sucks. But as somebody who's been playing PUBG on a low to mid rig, I know people have better rigs than me playing PUBG, and it doesn't really kill the experience for me.
Brandon, what about you, man? Because I know you've played a lot of PUBG.
Yeah, I played a decent amount, not a ton, but I mean, like, yeah, I have a 144 hertz monitor, so I certainly know the advantages of like frame rates in multiplayer games. But PUBG is not. I mean, as far as competitive multiplayer games go, the frame rate doesn't matter in PUBG as much as others, like say Counter-Strike or Quake or Overwatch or fucking.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Anyone like that, because PUBG has plenty of slower paced moments, but. Okay. It's exactly like he said. When it comes down to you're turning a corner and there's someone there, the higher frame rate will have the advantage.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. We'll do another question from Sam Tolbert, actually, who's in chat. Our buddy Sam. He asks, Demon's Souls is going offline in 2018 with no remaster news as yet. What does this mean for the preservation of such titles? That is a good question. And you're probably not going to like the answer if you like Demon's Souls, but there's not a lot anybody can do about it. These games, especially the Souls games that are always online games, yeah, you can play them offline, but half the fun of playing the Souls game is either invading somebody else's world or pulling somebody into your world for a duel or doing co-op. That's why a lot of people. I mean, there are entire fight clubs that revolve around Dark Souls and Bloodborne and Demon's Souls, and Demon's Souls is coming to an end after 8 or 9 years of the servers being online. They're pulling the plug, and once they do, it's gone. You'll never be able to play online in that game again.
I mean, that's normal though. I mean, games come and go. Like servers get taken offline.
Yep. Yeah,
I mean, it was supposed to get taken off in 2011, so yeah,
it was.
It's been cool that they, put it out an extra 6 years.
Yeah,
but I mean, it's unfortunate. I love Demon's Souls, but I mean, these things cost money, and
really, how many people were probably using this game's online components in 2017 compared to the cost of maintenance, right? I'm sure it's a simple math thing for them.
Yeah. I mean, now you would probably be surprised at how many people were still playing Demon's Souls for a long, long time.
Yeah.
But again, like you said, at some point you've got to weigh, cost. You've got to weigh cost and effect, and be like, okay, well, is it worth us spending the money to keep these servers online every year? Because it's not cheap. And like Brandon said, it was cool of them to do it as long as they did. I mean, the shit was supposed to go offline 6 years ago.
And yeah. I think that this will be an increasingly frequent topic in the next decade or so.
Yep.
I mean, probably the next 3 or 4 years. And I think it might even be along. Speaking on consoles, I think it might be along console lines. Just because Sony and Microsoft's take on compatibility and kind of, if I buy a game on this console, should I be able to play it on the next one? And I think that might change, right? Microsoft certainly turned off the original Halo games and the original Xbox games, Xbox Live, But now with their revamped focus on kind of legacy games, I don't know if we're going to see that from them, or at least not as frequently as I think we might start seeing on some Sony exclusive games.
Well, and you can take that another way, and JT, I think you have mentioned this as well. Actually, I think it was. Correct me if I'm wrong, JT. I think it was you that brought this up a while ago. But I buy a lot of my games digital. In fact, I'm like almost on the PS4 anyway. I am like 99% digital, unless there's a sweet collector's edition. If Sony were to pull the plug tomorrow, what happens to all my games? I can't play them because I don't have the licenses for them anymore. So I mean, you can take Sam's question and take it beyond Demon Souls and say, I mean, if you're playing a digital copy of anything,
that has always been the understanding of digital. Like that shit can just go away at any time, at like any moment. Like people just take Steam for granted that it'll always be there, but
it won't.
Yeah, that's true.
It won't.
It's different whenever it's like a service platform versus an individual like game that comes out from different publishers. Like, EA takes like all the sports games, like all the 09, 10, things that people don't play anymore. I mean, that's fine that they do that, but I don't know. Like, if Sony gets out of the game, like, and we've kind of seen it with PSP Go, right? Like, there was no way to get physical PSP games for the PSP Go, and they still are running that store, but a lot of the luxuries that owners had are not there anymore, as far as like digital support for those platforms.
Isn't it like the store on the PSP actually doesn't work now? You have to like hook up the PSP to like a computer to buy games.
Yeah, you have to use the cable. Yeah.
Yeah, you can't even access the store on the console anymore.
Well, and somebody kind of pointed out, they correctly mentioned, well, if they're saved on your console, you're fine, which is true, right? I mean, any game that's saved on there, they're probably not going to revoke that license, but it's the concept of my hard drive is full. I'm gonna uninstall this PT demo.
Exactly.
And then if Sony ever shut down their PS4 store, you wouldn't have access to download.
That is actually, Zach. That is actually the reason I have not deleted PT from my PS4 is because you can't download it anymore. And if I download it, it's gone. And I think that's
basically what we'll eventually see, right? Which sucks. Obviously,
yeah, I mean, games get delisted. Like there's this, what was it, like
Deadpool just got delisted.
Deadpool, Spider-Man: Shattered Dimensions got delisted. I mean, and I love Spider-Man: Shattered Dimensions. It's a great Spider-Man game. Ride to Hell Redemption was delisted, which is just a tragedy for everybody.
I hate
that. Really.
Tony Hawk's Pro Skater HD got delisted.
Oh man, what a classic!
These are all like Activision games.
Marvel vs. Capcom 3 got delisted.
Activision was the one that also delisted Deadpool and we do this shit all the time.
So I mean, Brandon makes
Wolfenstein 09 they delisted.
Which is a great
makes a good fucking point, man. We take this shit for granted. We really do. Like I don't think about this enough. Like one day, I mean, my games could be gone, and or at the very least, if I delete them to make room for something else, I'll never be able to play them again. Unless I want to buy the physical disc. And so, which means I have to buy that game all over again. So yeah, I mean, Brandon makes an excellent point. We take this shit for granted, man. It's a scary. That's a great question, Sam. It's something we don't think about often enough.
Well, the trade-off is you have to stand up to change discs.
Yeah, and I don't like doing that shit, man. I'm lazy. That's bullshit. We have a question from at Devastator3094. He wants to know if there is a game that we enjoy, or if there's a game that the majority of people enjoy, but we really can't get into. Boy, do we have some answers for you. Well, right off the bat from you, Witcher 3. Witcher 3 and Bayonetta. I hate both those games. I hate them. I don't like them at all. I never will. I've tried, and I just want to point out, I've put about 35 to 40 hours into The Witcher 3. I fucking tried. I tried to love that game, and I can't love it. I can't.
We
And-
live in a world where John thinks that Final Fantasy 15's combat system is better than Witcher 3.
It absolutely
It
fucking
is.
It is.
By far.
Thank you, Brandon.
By far.
Thank
the final,
you, Brandon.
the final Fantasy.
How?
15
Like, are you
is
just holding a button?
What do you mean how?
actually fun.
Witcher
Wait,
3's
how?
combat is garbage.
Dude, Witcher 3's combat is the Jello pudding of RPG combat.
John, I have to ask, what difficulty were
Fantasy
you playing
15 had
Witcher
a
when you
shitty
think
camera,
the
but at least it was fun.
combat is poor?
Normal. I'm playing on normal difficulty.
The thing is like Nier's combat's. I mean, not Nier. The Witcher 3's combat is bad, and like if they put it on easy, it's just to get through the story. That's not a good sign.
No, I played on a normal. Yeah, I don't know. I actually thought the combat was like tough, but maybe I'm just garbage.
It felt very floaty. Like it just kind of felt like it was like in the middle. It's like I have to fight to achieve
So I want to caveat this. Like I mean, you guys know, and everybody in chat knows, I'm a Souls purist. So I am used to like really heavy, weighty, combat with a sense of like meat on its bones. And the problem with Witcher 3's combat for me was just that, like, Jay just said, it felt floaty. Geralt felt like he had no weight or substance behind him. Hit registry on your enemies was practically non-existent. You're just sitting there whacking away at them, and it just doesn't seem like they're affecting them. I didn't like the way Geralt controlled. I didn't like the UI. I thought the map was a mess. It's one of those games where the world loved it, and I could not fucking for the life of me understand why. I respect anybody who loves it. I understand why people would love it. I just didn't.
Well, you fulfilled the question at the very least.
Cool.
Yeah.
I have answers to this actually.
Please.
It's not Mario though. I don't enjoy the Mario games, but everyone here should know that by now.
Yes, we do.
I'm gonna do a game that came out this year, and I was very disappointed that I couldn't get into it, and that was Nier Automata.
I'm right there with you.
I started it.
Because I absolutely love the first Nier. The first Nier is in top 5, like probably favorite games of all time, but I just could not get into the sequel for some reason.
Okay, I just started the first game.
And everybody that you don't love.
What?
Brandon, can you hear me?
What? Yeah, what?
There you are. There's got to be a game. Oh, what about you, man? There's got to be a game that people love that you don't love.
Yeah, fucking Assassin's Creed. Fucking all of them. Every single goddamn one of them.
Really? I never heard you mention that before.
You've never heard me mention Assassin's
No,
Creed?
I don't think
I fucking despise Assassin's Creed.
What is it about
it? Everything about it.
What is it about Assassin's Creed?
From the very first game, because I bought into the hype of the very first one in 2007, and it's getting all the 9 out of 10 reviews and shit. And so mainly I absolutely hated everything about the modern day storyline, Desmond and fucking Veronica Mars, whatever her name was.
Yeah. Christian Bell.
Careful
You are
here.
Mr. Roboto hardcore.
Yeah.
Am I right now?
Yeah,
Yeah.
really
it's been
bad.
going on for a minute.
Okay, hold on. I'll be right back. Please continue.
So yeah, it was. I hated the modern day storyline stuff. It absolutely destroyed the pacing of the game. Like I just kind of wanted to climb. The first game had a lot of it, so it just started me off on a bad foot.
I think the first one's the best one, actually.
I don't know how people can possibly think and then
Did you play it you played it right when it came out too? And you thought,
I played it like the week. I played it the week it came out.
I mean, it's deeply flawed, but there's so much great ambition in that game.
I mean, it came out in 2007 though. Like, I mean, that was a nutty year. I was playing Call of Duty 4, like Halo at the time. Like, I was playing Super Mario Galaxy. Like, I was playing like what people consider some of the best games ever made. Like, literally within weeks of that. So yeah, I mean, I didn't see the hype. And then Assassin's Creed 2 came out, and all the reviews were just talking about how it addressed all the flaws of the first one. And I was just
Is that better, guys?
Second
much
one,
better.
I don't like the second one all that much.
Yeah, I'm just talking about the general opinion of it. Like every single review said how much it was an improvement it was over the first one, and I just couldn't get into it. I got maybe 7 or 8 hours, and I was just like, huh. And I played a shitload of Assassin's Creed 1. Like I beat the game. I actually did a lot of side stuff in it, and I don't know why. Because I wasn't even enjoying it. But it was right after I got back from Iraq, and I had a lot of free time. That was basically it.
Yeah, I do. I remember those days, man. That's the reason I played through Silent Hill 4 all the way.
Yeah.
JT, what about you, man?
My answer would before Final Fantasy 15 came out and kind of changed my mind, it would have been the Final Fantasy series. But That came out and I liked it, and so I've been giving it a chance, and mainly because those games are like the epitome of turn-based combat systems, and for my entire life I've not liked turn-based combat. But I'm warming up to it now, and it's kind of changed my opinion. It's kind of funny that Final Fantasy 15, an action game, has like gotten me into the like menu-based combat system games, but I'm coming around. So I guess it's not really answering the question, but
it's not at all. But that's fine. I'll take it.
Yeah.
Be sure to play Final Fantasy VIII, which is the best Final Fantasy game.
That is a trash opinion, and everybody who loves Final Fantasy knows it. Zach, what about you, man?
I can't do any Lego games. I've tried a couple.
Oh, thank God! You're lucky Jeff isn't here, man. Woo!
Is he a Lego guy?
I really want to like him, but I just can't. Yeah, I don't know what it is about it, but I just can't fuck with all of them, I guess. I think I tried the Batman ones, I tried the Indiana Jones ones, I tried the Star Wars ones. I just can't do it.
I don't like the mechanics. I don't like the build mechanics. I don't know, like I get they're supposed to be humorous, but I guess I just don't get the humor.
Well, but there's not even that, right? Like, I like the idea of like cutesy Lego platforming, right? Like I like the Lego movies. Like, I think they're cute, but like the way the platforming feels, like I think your characters feel really floaty, but like the GTA 4 style of like when you want to turn around, how you have to like literally kind of have like a big sweeping turn is like kind of how I feel like I control like a big tank. It just, I don't know, it doesn't feel good to play.
The animations don't match up well with like the inputs.
Yeah, something about it is just it's an awkward feel for me, and like it bums me out because they're really cute and they're usually popular when they come out, and I can't participate in those conversations.
Wait, Zach, are you talking shit about GTA 4?
About its controls, yeah.
Yeah, I don't like the controls.
That game controls perfectly.
The SDGC like number 7 game of all time.
Yeah, because I voted 10 for it. I nominated it too, I think.
Zach missed that fucking dumpster fire. That was our top 100 games of all time list. That was
you're lucky.
Woo! That was
not a single one of us stand by that list.
I stand by 1%.
No, Zach. You should go back and watch the episode for that, because that was probably the
dumpster fire.
The angriest
and then I'll
that we've
subsequently
ever...
just quit just right afterward.
Yeah,
we literally
you don't want to be associated with us anymore.
I got Final Fantasy 6 placed at like 40 something.
Unfucking believable. That game should have been 1. Oh my God. My reaction to that is probably worth watching it alone. We've got more questions, but I feel like we're getting close to shutting down time here.
About 10 minutes.
You guys think we got time for one more? You want to do one more?
Yeah,
one more
question. Yeah.
Thunder round, yep. One.
All right. Let's do one from Enrique. Enrique asks, now that Bungie has addressed its Destiny 2 community, do you believe things will change for the better for Destiny 2?
I think this goes back to our Final
first of
Fantasy
all,
15 conversation.
Yeah, does anybody have on file a quick rundown of what like they're changing?
A ton.
There's like the bullet points, like TLDR.
I can rattle it for you off the top of my head because I read it. There's a new class of weapons coming called Masterworks, for example, and Masterworks are going to bring back like rerollable perks for weapons, like kind of like Destiny 1 had. So if people want to grind for that, they can. People who love the grind, they're getting rid of the token system, and they're making it like Destiny 1 again, where you could, buy what you want with tokens instead of just getting like a random drop with your tokens. They are going to be instituting ranked PvP sometime early next year. So ranked PvP will be a thing, which I think is pretty cool. They are going to add more rewards for they're adding the heroic strike list back, and they're going to add more incentive to play strikes, like strike specific loot and stuff like that. There's going to be weapon ornament, or not weapon, but armor ornaments to further like differentiate your armor from other people's. There's going to be a lot of tweaks made to gameplay. I mean, the list of changes is extensive, but I think the biggest problem that Destiny 2 has is Bungie's until now complete unwillingness to engage with their community. and engage with the people who play their game. I feel like transparency has been the biggest issue that they've had. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if you guys play as much Destiny as I do. I know some of you don't, but does anybody else have an opinion on this?
I mean, my big thing is that a lot of what Bungie is doing here with Destiny 2 is they are catering to their core players who play it every day, and that's one of the first things that was like the lead, right? Is that they wanted this game. They don't want video games to be your hobby. They want Destiny 2 to be your hobby. And so a lot of these changes reflect that. So they reflect the hardcore player who's willing to play it every day. But to me, as somebody who might come back to that game 1 or 2 times a month, I don't know if this is fundamentally a big enough change for me to feel interest to come back more frequently than that. But I also think it's a slippery slope to always cater to the vocal minority who are incredibly dedicated to just your game. But obviously their communication has been terrible.
What I know, and I agree. Yeah, they've done a piss poor job of communicating with their fan base, and that to me has been the biggest problem, more so than problems in the game itself.
Yep.
What about the rest of you guys? Do you guys have a strong opinion on this one?
I'm speaking for other people, not for myself. I'm speaking for this. My friends are core players of Destiny. You know, they play Destiny 1 every day. They went to Destiny 2, and they dipped out really quick. They're excited about it. I mean, I think the changes are good. I feel like a lot of people were like really upset with Destiny 2 because they had made it, you know, a little more approachable. They made it a little more casual, and it kind of like.
I agree.
I mean, it kind of killed what Destiny was.
Destiny was all about the grind.
Yeah, it was all about the grind, and they killed the grind. And it's like, okay, I got to like crystal level. I don't know, like 300. It's like there's really nothing else for me to do. And all the drops are, they're not random anymore. You know, you get the same drops every single time. It's like, why should I run this?
Well, right. Like, well, I mean, like in Destiny 1, there are guns that literally took you weeks or sometimes months to get. One of the biggest accomplishments in Destiny 1 was getting the Touch of Malice gun, which was an extremely rare exotic weapon. And I mean, there was a lot. I mean, it took me over a month to get it. And there was a lot that went into it. There's this quest, and you had to run the raid multiple times, and there were very specific things you had to do in the raid. And getting the Touch of Malice was like a badge of honor. Like, oh, he got the Touch of Malice, so he put a lot of work into it. There's nothing like that in Destiny 2 at all. Mm-hmm. There's one weapon that is similar, but the grind to get it is not half of what the Touch of Malice was. And so, do you think that this will be enough to bring lapsed players back? People who weren't happy with Destiny 2 as it launched?
I mean, maybe. I can't say yes or no for that because I mean, you know, Bungie could just drop the ball with this again.
Yeah, they could.
I don't know. I don't think it's a little too early to actually answer the question fully.
Okay, that's
just really quick. I think one of the things that worked so well for the first Destiny was that there weren't a lot of games that were games as a service in 2014 on console.
Yeah,
and so I think they had this ability to revamp their systems frequently. But in 2017, there are so many games like Overwatch and Rainbow Six Siege. And other Ubisoft joints that kind of and other games.
You got your Warframe.
That kind of prevent
Fortnite.
that same sort of mentality. Like, I don't know if I want to go back to Destiny 2 because I'm addicted to Siege and I'm addicted to Battlefield 1 again. And like,
I mean, I feel like
really
the first Destiny, I think, was the first game that really introduced people to introduced the idea to console gamers of like, oh, I'm gonna go back to this game all the time. I should probably not have to put in a disc every time I want to play it.
Yeah. By the way, when you say you're addicted to Siege, Zach, you're speaking JT's language.
Oh, okay.
No, he would be speaking my language if he said Rocket League.
Well, he's definitely speaking Jeff's language.
Yeah, Jeff is our resident Siege fanboy.
Jeff is the Siege guy.
Yep.
I do like some Siege.
And I just want one final point, and then we'll wrap it up. I do want to point out something Zach said in chat. He said the Destiny Reddit is hardly happy, and you're right about that. Destiny fans are notoriously hard to please, and there are members of that community that you are never going to make happy no matter what Bungie does.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that also has to be taken into consideration as well. But we've kind of hit our limit here at an hour and a half. We had a really good podcast tonight.
Yeah.
I want to thank everybody in chat for hanging out with us. You know, every now and then I'll wander into another podcast and I'll just observe the chat for a while, and you see some of the most toxic shit you could possibly imagine. going through that chat, but we don't have that problem. We have an awesome group of friends who watch us, and the discussion in chat is always very, very mature and polite. And what's interesting is that everybody in chat knows each other. That's what I love to see. Like Midi comes in and Kogasu and Jesse and everybody says, "Hey, Midi," or Nels comes in and everybody says, "Hey, Nels." Like that is what I really love about our chat, is that it's
a community. It's like it's welcoming.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Exactly. That's what that's what we love about it. When we love you guys and we appreciate you guys. So we please thank you for supporting us. And don't forget, next week we are going to be doing our Game of the Year episode. Where we're all going to talk about our Game of the Year and our runner-up Game of the Year. And I just want to point out, doesn't necessarily mean a game that released this year. It just means a game that we played for the first time this year. So if you hear a game from 2016, for example, don't be surprised.
If you hear about the original ET game, don't be surprised.
Don't be surprised. Yeah, shit. I mean, if you've never played ET and you played ET this year and you're crazy enough to make that your fucking Game of the Year, go nuts. Go right ahead.
I mean, we did have the Quidditch game on our top list.
It's
possible.
Number 100, Quidditch World Cup.
I remember that. That's a good game.
Yeah. Oh, Zach. Oh.
The least controversial game on our entire list.
But and we are also going to be writing articles on the website, each of us about each of us who can, about our picks for Game of the Year. And we are also going to be utilizing the website a lot more. We've dropped the ball on that, but we're going to fix that. I'd like to write a lot more opinion pieces, especially about anxiety and how it relates in gaming for me. So I'm going to be. I can promise you guys, you'll be seeing a lot more content on the website as well. But anyway, does anybody have anything they want to add before we go?
Nope.
Okay then.
There is a res vibrator that exists out there.
Yeah, there is.
It is the ideal way to play res.
Well, I mean, there's the entire trance suit or whatever the fuck it's called.
Yeah, like that is the ideal way.
Should have ended like 2 minutes ago.
I would love to play.
Do that all while you're in VR, and so you have the full experience.
Yeah, I would love to play res fully all the way through just once with all that gear.
Yeah.
People, you guys look at the chat. I want 42 hours of podcast in 1 week. Podcast with no pants. We'll do a podcast with no pants one day, I promise.
We don't
We're
do that now.
We're not already doing that?
Yeah, that's why I don't have a webcam.
Shit, am I the only one wearing pants? Shit.
I wear pants 24/7. So.
That sucks. All right, well, we will be back for our Game of the Year episode next week. And
is Jay never nude?
I don't know. What?
Is Jay never nude?
Let's just go, all right?
Let's just go. We're going to end it now. Guys, people want to go play games and people want to go to sleep. So, guys, as always, it's not always poetry and we don't always agree, but we always keep it real. So until next week, please be good to each other and enjoy life. We'll see you later, guys.
Mario doesn't have chest hair. Did you guys know?